Hey there, and welcome back to the show. I have a question. Do you ever hold yourself back from sharing your work because it's not yet perfect? I'm totally guilty of that too. And in this episode, we are going to break down the fear of imperfection to be able to move through it once and for all. But before I get into that, I have something really important and special and exciting to share with you. I am a nominee for the Women in Podcasting Award in the personal development category. And I would super appreciate your support in voting for me. The polls are officially going to close on May 31st, and the winner will be announced in June. And I'm really looking forward to that. To vote, it'll only take about a minute or two of your time. You must go to womenpodcasters.com. I've also included the link in the show notes for simplicity, along with some directions on how to vote. Once you go on to womenpodcasters.com, you will see right there as you get on the website, it'll say vote for the 2025 Podcast Awards. Once you click on it, it'll take you to a Google form. And then there you can fill out some information and select the podcaster that you want per category. Again, Feminine Initiate Jessica West is in the personal development category, and I would really so appreciate your support in voting for me. And my second announcement is that I don't know if you tuned into last week's episode, but I am holding a draw for a copy of my book, Manifesting with Purpose. I am going to hold that draw on May 31st and announce the winner and send them a copy of my book. All you have to do to enter is take a screenshot of this episode right now as you're listening to it, post it in your stories on Instagram, and tag me at Jessica LM West, and you will be in the draw. And if you are the lucky winner, then I will talk to you and reach out on May 31st. And I'm so excited for you. Hey friend, welcome to the Feminine Initiate podcast, a space for online coaches, creatives, and visionaries ready to do the thing while reclaiming their feminine power, manifesting their desires, and creating the impact they know they're here to make. Let's get into it. Today, we're talking about the fear of imperfection or perfectionism that I feel like many of us could end up priding ourselves upon, saying, oh, I'm a perfectionist, so I'm not going to put it out there until it's perfect. It's just the way that I am, which perfectionism at its core is rooted in fear. It is a survival mechanism. It's a safety mechanism that is preventing us from putting ourselves out there out of fear of failure, rejection, judgment, vulnerability, all kinds of fears that we're going to get into in a moment. But the reason why I want to talk about this week is because perfectionism is something also real that I have just recently experienced. And actually, being in podcasting for 2.5 years, perfectionism has been something that I've been experiencing a lot of, though I continue to push through. But in recent weeks, it has been feeling a little more real and has caused me some delays. Now, you may or may not have seen that I have just released a new Sunday series on the podcast called Just Tap Sundays. This Sunday, which was the one that just passed, I don't even know the date right now, but anyways, this Sunday, I had just released one to return to our feminine flow, to let go of our hustle energy, our go, go, go mode, and return to our feminine flow. Truth be told, I had recorded that podcast episode a few weeks ago now. It wasn't that topic. It was on the topic of calming our nervous system, of signaling safety to our nervous system so that we can open ourselves up to receive, which was a topic that I had discussed in length on the podcast a couple weeks ago as well. And so I thought, how beautiful, I can pair an EFT tapping with it. But after I recorded that episode, perfectionism really kicked in and I never hit publish. There were so many things going through my mind. Like, I wasn't sure if that was the greatest topic that I wanted to debut this Just Tap Sunday series. I wanted it to be more relevant to what the podcast is, which is Feminine Initiate, which is embracing our feminine power. And then I got caught up into thinking, well, does it even make sense to put out a Just Hat Sunday series on the podcast? Like, or should I not be doing this? It's not the best platform to really be hosting this. And then what if I started to post this Sunday series and then I couldn't keep up because that would mean 2 episodes per week? And like, what if I just get too busy and so I can't do it? That's a little bit of fear of success in there. And then I was also thinking that maybe I didn't provide enough information in the intro or like background information on what EFT tapping is to make it make sense for why I'm now creating these new episodes. Just all kinds of things, all kinds of thoughts, all kinds of internal narratives that really prevented me from releasing the episode, which I feel like it worked out all right because I ended up, Sunday's episode, if you did tune into it, I feel is such a beautiful introduction for this new series. So it all worked out, but perfectionism really came online. And I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one who feels this. So some of the fears that could show up as perfectionism is fear of failure. What if I fail if I put this out there? We hold ourselves to such high standards and we can be so critical of ourselves that we're not happy with whatever it is that we created because we know that we can do so much better. But here's the thing, people don't actually know. Like if you're creating something or if you're sharing a speech, this is one thing, because when I did a lot of speaking and live speaking, if I would forget something in my speech, only I know that. The audience doesn't know that. So the audience would just think that it was so great. It was so well done. But in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, no, like I failed because I missed saying this and I missed this pause and I missed this and all of these things. But to the outside world, people who have no knowledge of exactly what it is that you're doing and all the preparation that you've done, like you did amazing. We can be our worst critics, and that ends up creating paralysis within ourselves. And all of these fears, as you know, they're rooted in our subconscious mind, which is rooted in the past. Maybe we grew up in a family where if we didn't get an A+ on our report card, well, we were a failure and we could have done better. And maybe we were even punished for that. And so we have been ingrained to need to be such these like star performers. And if we don't, then we're a failure. And because we're setting ourselves up to such high standards, we're almost doomed to failure because we're not allowing ourselves to even be able to succeed at anything. And it creates this like perpetual loop. Then there is the fear of judgment, the fear of being misunderstood or criticized by others. You see, fear of failure, we're very critical upon ourselves. And then fear of judgment is almost like seeing the realization of that criticism in others. And what's really interesting about the fear of judgment is because whatever we fear that others are going to judge us on is actually a judgment that we have upon ourselves deep down within, because again, this is all held on our subconscious mind. But if someone were to criticize us and we were to actually be affected, negatively affected by those words, the only reasons why we would be affected is because there is something within us that believes it. We are not capable of being aware of anything that isn't already existent in our own vibration. This is something that I share so often. We can only be aware of something that is accordance with what we are holding within ourselves. And if something is active within us, that's really the only way that we can actually be like hurt or triggered or have any kind of emotion for anything outside of ourselves. Like, for example, if someone were to call you a different name and like a different human name, they just mistaken your name for something else. Like, for example, I'm Jessica. If someone were to call me Brenda, I would just be like, okay, like, oh, you're Brenda. No, I'm not. There would be no effect, right? But if someone were, to see my content and be like, oh, you're so stupid, that would hurt. That would affect me. I'd be like, oh, so deep down, that must mean there is a part of me that has this fear of like, oh, Are people going to think I'm stupid? I must be stupid. And we all have these limiting voices within ourselves, right? These voices that are telling us that we're less than. And again, they're all held in the subconscious. They're all rooted in the past. They've all come from something in our prior life, right? In our little life. I mean, I think back to elementary school, right? When kids were mean. If you didn't get a good grade or if you did something weird, like people would just say, okay, like you're stupid. And then our subconscious just holds on to these things. Our subconscious is like that little child within ourselves. And so whenever we are triggered by these things, like you're stupid, you're weird, you're whatever, right? We are only affected by it to the extent to which we believe it within ourselves. It is present within us. And so when we have the fear of judgment, we want to look within. How am I judging myself? And how is this activating what is present within me and letting me know what needs to be healed? There's also the fear of rejection. What if I'm not accepted because I'm not perfect, because I showed my flaws, because I did some work that wasn't complete and I'm not accepted for that? Again, all fears are an internalized feeling. How are we rejecting ourselves? Let's turn it all inward. There's also fear of vulnerability, of exposing ourselves so that all others can see. They can see our thoughts, see how we feel. We've been sharing resources that we truly believe in. And what if it's not good enough? What if people realize that I'm not smart enough, that I'm not qualified enough, that I'm just not enough? There's no shortage of opinions out there in the world. And again, I mean, vulnerability really hurts. It's scary to put ourselves out there, be visible, be seen, and be open and subject to all of the opinions of others. But again, everything is just a reaction based on what we are holding within. Another way that perfectionism could show up is in the fear of success, as I had mentioned earlier. What if I put this out there and it actually does really do well? And then people are demanding more of me. Now I have to keep it up. And now I'm actually expected to get better and better and better. And that could be enough to prevent us from moving forward. We almost get into this state of paralysis where we're not really sure what to do. So we're just not going to move. We're not going to get out there because then we might need more. And what happens? What happens if we're not actually able to handle all of that success, all of the attention? Like, this is all too real. This is, again, based in our judgment of ourselves. Do we not think that we are capable of handling that? That comes down to our nervous system. Are we actually able and capable of holding this amount of attention? So to recap, the main fears that are at the root of perfectionism are fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of vulnerability, fear of success. Perfectionism can also look like procrastination because we can't fail. We can't be judged. We can't be rejected. We're not vulnerable. And we definitely can't succeed if we never start anything. So there's nothing to fear if I just continue to procrastinate. So again, it's like this safety mechanism that we are procrastinating so that we don't have to live out these fears realized. What the cycle could look like is that we feel that fear of imperfection. So in order to mitigate that, in order to never have to feel that, we will procrastinate, which means we will be unprepared, which means that whatever content we create will not be prepared enough to allow us to want to share it. So then we're going to hesitate because we're going to fall back into that fear of imperfection. And then the cycle is just going to continue. So we're going to start to procrastinate again. We're going to feel unprepared. We're not going to put out the content. And there we go. And then it just cycles and continues. And we never actually end up doing what it is that we want to do because we're just stuck in this state of paralysis, of not moving. There is no perfect. Again, we all know this. Nothing is ever perfect, and we don't want that anyways. And it's through just doing things that we actually learn. It wasn't until I really embraced the thought that done is better than perfect that I was able to do anything in my life or my business, that I was able to continue to post my podcast every week for over 2.5 years. I have not skipped a day. And every time that I had an episode that I was like, I feel like I totally could have done better, I would hit publish anyway and say, that's okay. Next week is another week. Next week is another opportunity. My next episode is an opportunity for me to just continuously get better. And that's how we should be looking at everything. Let's just put it out there. Everything is a learning opportunity. I had once spoke to someone who was writing a book, and he didn't feel like it was perfect yet because he felt like he was continuously learning things. And so he actually sat on his book for 10 years before publishing it, because every time he'd go back to it, he'd be like, oh my gosh, I know so much more now. So I just need to add so many more things. And then finally, 10 years later, he's like, that's it. I just got to publish it because I'm always learning so much. So I'm always going to want to go back and do some edits and fix things as I continue to just experience life. And so I can end up sitting here in like paralysis and never getting anything done, never publishing this book, or I could just publish it. And, the more that I learn, then I can release a book 2 and then a book 3 and a book 4 and whatever, just continue moving forward. But this is really what it is. If we just sit with whatever content that we have and we just keep revising it, we're like, no, it's not perfect yet because I know more, because we're always going to end up knowing more. We're never going to actually end up getting anywhere. And the growth is actually in hitting publish even before it feels ready. You are going to grow so much and going to gain so much more confidence in yourself in just putting it out there. As you may already know, last year I spoke at an international speaking competition in Toronto, Ontario at Speaker Slam, and I placed 4th in that competition. I was practicing for months before that competition. I wrote out my speech, read it a whole bunch of times, practiced it by myself, in front of the mirror, in front of my family. I also joined Toastmasters and I was practicing in front of a group of people there. I practiced on virtual in other Toastmasters communities as well. But even with all of that practice, nothing actually prepared me enough to be on that stage in front of a live audience of 250 people and having those lights beaming on me. Nothing would have prepared me for that until actually experiencing it. Now I know what that's like. And now I can, move on to the next level and do it again and do even bigger audiences. But I would have never been prepared if I would have just stayed back and just practiced in my head and not actually shared it. And so we are fooling ourselves if we think that we can just rehearse things in our head enough or be perfect enough or have the perfect episode crafted before we actually hit record. It's a totally different feel. It's a totally different energy to actually be doing something for real. Eyes are on you. The record button is going. It is so different. We're never going to be prepared until we actually do it. And actually, on this note, if you are sitting on a video content or even a podcast content, one of the things that I would suggest is starting out, and this may seem scary, and this may be like, what? Are you kidding me? Is going live on social media. Even if it's just live on your stories or live on Instagram and then posting on your stories, because I do find, for me personally anyways, I don't get as many views when I go live on Instagram than I do on Facebook. But the thing that I love about lives is that it is truly one take. You're there, and you're doing it. Whoever shows up, they're showing up. And if you stumble upon your words, or if you have this, this like brain fart where you have to take a moment and try to find your wording again, like it's fine. It's live. It's happening. But when you're trying to create a piece of content that is pre-recorded, you can just end up getting so much in your head because every longer pause could be a reason for you to like cut and restart. Every word stumble could be a reason why you are going to cut and restart. And a 15-minute piece of content can turn into 2 to 3 hours of work. Ask me how I know. So sometimes when we just put ourselves on the spot and just do it, that is how we actually grow. That's how we actually learn. And that's how we gain confidence, just by going out and doing it. So when you do this, right, whether you are going live or there is something, if there is something in your draft folder right now, and all you need is to push that publish button, make it live, make the change, I encourage you to do that this week. Just go out and do it and affirm to yourself, done is better than perfect. And the only way that I can grow is by doing. That's it. And every time you do something, I would suggest that you write it down, because you are building evidence. I'm really big on evidence journaling, so that sooner than later, you are going to have this beautiful journal or notepad or whatever it is of just evidence of how much you are a badass and how you're showing up and doing the things, and why you can do the next thing, and why you can do whatever you have on your mind, whatever it is that you would love to do. You can absolutely do it. And this book is going to be your evidence of why you can do it, because you continue showing up for you, showing up to share your impact, and you are just gaining confidence and growing and making new connections and just being happy with yourself and the life that you're creating. And that's really the point of it all, right? And so I hope that this episode really resonates with you, and I hope that you can see yourself in it. Whatever of the fears that I had listed, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of vulnerability, fear of success, or procrastination, whenever that fear of imperfection shows up for you, I hope that this is allowing you to really look within to see, okay, what is the root cause of this, so that you can start working with that fear and be able to transcend it. You can reason with it. A lot of the times when we see these fears, again, because they're in our subconscious mind, they're rooted in the past. We can sometimes know, oh, I fear this because I remember when I was ridiculed for my high school presentation or whatever it is. You can really see that and then ask yourself, does this still hold true for me today? Like, is this truth? What if this fear were actually realized? What would happen to me? What would that actually mean for me? When we allow ourselves to really start questioning that fear, we can end up transcending it. EFT tapping is a great way to get through it as well. Constant affirmations, affirming to ourselves that done is better than perfect. I am going to move forward. Doing is the only way that I will get better. There are so many ways that we can reach for it. But I hope this resonated with you. And again, I encourage you to do one thing this week that you have been delaying out of fear of imperfection, and do it. And when you do, I would love it for you to share it and tag me in it so that I can hear all about it, because I am so excited for you. And again, a reminder, if you are listening to this episode right now, as I'm sure you are, because this is how you're hearing this, please take a photo, share it in your Instagram stories, tag me at Jessica LM West to be entered in the draw to win a copy of my book that will be drawn on May 31st. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And until next time, be empowered. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a rating and review. It'll help me grow the show by reaching a wider audience. And if you'd like to continue this conversation, join me inside my private Facebook group, Just Launch. This is a great place where we can connect on a more personal level. You can find the link in the show notes.